What's up, guys? Welcome back on Sport Vitamins for episode 38. Like most of the people of my age, I grew up being a fan of the Chicago Bulls, and today I have the huge honor of having Coach Mcomer on the show. Coach Comer is the assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Chicago Bulls. Some of the topics that we cover with him are how to manage a short preseason, lifting on game days, and the importance of having veterans leading the way. So, without further ado, guys, here's the episode with Coach Mcomer. Matt, welcome on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Thanks for having me.
It's a true pleasure to have you on today. Usually, I start the episode asking my guest a little background.
Sure. Yeah. So everyone kind of has their own little journey to get where they are, and mine's definitely kind of unique for my position. I started off as an athletic trainer, so I'm still a little newer to the kind of strength side. I've been practicing as an athletic trainer for, probably about 8 years before I made the switch. And I also kind of have a background in American football and not basketball. So two kind of unique situations compared to a lot of my counterparts in the NBA. But yeah, I mean, being an athletic trainer really kind of helped pave my way to be a strength coach. I kind of really love the rehab aspect of being an athletic trainer and getting guys back healthy and back on the field. And really the end stages of rehabs are really strength and conditioning. And most of those mid to late stage rehab should be handled more in the weight room, especially for these elite athletes. So that kind of made an easy transition for myself, and really kind of fueled my passion to make the switch into the strength and conditioning world.
And how did this transition happen?
So when I got the job, with our G League team, the Windy City Bulls, about 5 years ago, and when I first got that position, we didn't have a strength coach. I was hired. We had an assistant athletic trainer, and my first, actually in the interview, they told me, your job also will be the strength and conditioning coach. Kind of felt out how I felt about that, and if I had any experience. And at the time, I didn't have any experience, coaching people, but plenty of personal experience, in the weight room myself. And so it was definitely something that I thought I could definitely handle. And our strength staff with the big team, really kind of helped me in the first few months with some programming ideas, some like kind of templates, ideas that they do. So they were kind of really big into making that transition pretty easy. In my first year, I kind of did maybe 80% athletic training, 25% strength, as I was kind of trying to figure that out. And my second year, I was lucky to hire a good athletic trainer to work underneath me and kind of let him. I told him, "You're the athletic trainer, you run the training room. We need to kind of dive a little deeper into the strength side, for this team." And my second year was kind of the first year really kind of taking a focus on that, and every year it kind of grew. I was lucky enough to work the summers with the big club. So during the season, I was with the G League team, and in the summer, I was with the big club. Working with their players and learning, picking the brains from our coaches with the big club, and year by year kind of learn a little more, get more comfortable. And last year I was kind of really ready to make the switch, and COVID happened, which kind of put me in a weird situation where we didn't participate in the G League, but I was lucky enough. I was one of, I think, only two people on the basketball ops side to remain employed with the G League. And I was lucky enough to stay with the big club and kind of travel with them for the year, really be an extension of the strength and conditioning staff outside of all my kind of COVID responsibilities that kind of kept me around as well. After that season, I was 100%. I was like, I'm definitely ready to make the switch. I love what I do. I love kind of being in this side of the room, and was very fortunate this offseason to kind of get the bump up.
Great. And how much of that experience as an athletic trainer you use nowadays working in the weight room?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely huge. I mean, just that the communication piece between the strength room and then the athletic training room, kind of understanding some of their philosophies, how kind of an athletic trainer thinks. It's really kind of helped bridge that gap for our rehab guys. I think one thing as a staff that we do really well, and kind of what really enticed me to make the switch officially is, they give the strength coaches a lot of leeway and a lot of room to kind of handle the rehabs. When you're working with these elite athletes, you get out of that initial stage. Post surgery, if it's a surgical case, once they get a couple weeks, couple months, depending on the surgery, a lot of that of what they should be doing should be based in the weight room. And obviously our PT and our athletic trainers will still do some soft tissue, stuff like that. Couple more therapeutic exercises, but we have a really good system where we get them fairly early, and they kind of let us, with their guidance, kind of run with it and kind of do what we do to get them back to performing at a high level. So that background as an athletic trainer has really helped that communication and understanding that side. And it just brings a different kind of thought process and philosophy to strength and conditioning, and taking the stuff that I've learned as an athletic trainer and then kind of applying that, or manipulating that to think of it as a strength coach. It's definitely been really helpful in my growth as a strength and conditioning coach.
In your opinion, would it be useful for athletic trainers to have a background as strength coaches?
Yeah, I think that's huge. One, just so they kind of understand a little more what we do and how we can assist them. And, it's just a good background and kind of tool to have to kind of understand. And it really will help with the, the rehab side of that, especially if they're in not everyone in professional sports has, strength coaches there. So if you're at a high school, low level college, you may not have that close relationship. So being able to understand, kind of the more principles of strength and conditioning will definitely help with their, athletic training skills, their rehab skills, and also just kind of understanding what we do. So that way they can try to bridge that gap, with their own staffs and with their own, strength side.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me, especially because here in Europe, we don't have athletic trainers. As I mentioned last week, we either have physiotherapists or strength coaches. So basically the whole rehab process is run by either the physio in their physio room or by the strength coach on the court and in the weight room. And there's nothing in between. But I think that having athletic trainers also here in Europe will be definitely beneficial for all the professional clubs.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like we talked last week. I think kind of the overall idea of an athletic trainer was kind of doing a little bit of everything. And so for those like high schools who can't afford a strength coach, who can't afford a physical therapy or physio, they kind of have someone that can, it's kind of a jack of all trades and can kind of handle everything and be that liaison between the doctors, the strength coaches, if there's any outside physios or physical therapists. So yeah, it's definitely like a very important profession. It's still, fairly young, in the States, and, obviously, year by year, they're kind of building it a little more, getting a little more respect. A lot of people still don't really know exactly what an athletic trainer is. And, so they're still kind of fighting that fight to get the name out and get people to understand the importance of it.
Sure. You mentioned that this year is your first season full-time with the NBA team. First of all, I would like to know how was the G League team, the G League for you? What kind of experience it was for you? And then I would like to know how smooth the transition was from being the strength coach and athletic trainer of the G League team to becoming the assistant strength coach for the NBA team.
Yeah, definitely. In the G League, for people that have experienced it, it's definitely a grind. There's low funding, a lot of bus trips, maybe not the nicest hotels, not the nicest facilities that you have to deal with. So it definitely helps you, become creative with what you have. Most of the time we're on the road. It's, hotel gyms with, if you're lucky, dumbbells to 50, and usually a couple cardio machines. There's usually not much more than that. And definitely facilities are getting nicer, and they're, the home team's letting the visiting team kind of use whatever they have, if possible. So that's definitely been something we've been trying to push in the G League, is getting kind of more of a universal kind of, standard for strength and conditioning for the road teams. But it's kind of tough. Even in the NBA, there's a lot of teams where we just get a cart with, power blocks up to 90, some bands, a Swiss ball, and You know, you kind of have to get creative there too. So that's definitely kind of helped me, you know, with this new role, the creativitiness. And then, you know, the G League, it's the other thing is, you know, you don't have the guys for the off season. So you get them, you know, 4 or 5 days before the season starts. You know, you kind of got to quickly do your needs analysis, your movement screening, you know, any type of test that you want to do to kind of to figure out who you have and how they move, what they like, what they don't like. And then, you know, the training camp starts, the season starts, and then really the kind of the day after the season, most of the guys leave, and you know, unless you're kind of in a warm city or a place where, you know, athletes kind of like to train in the off season, you really don't have contact with them, you know, much during the off season, and the rosters are continuously changing. So you typically, I think, I maybe only had 2 or 3 guys, you know, carry over to the next year. So every year, you know, you kind of have to learn a new roster. So I'd say that's the other big thing too, where you know, me is lucky that I was able to work with our big club during the summer. Is, you know, you don't have those guys to train during the off season. So you know, being able to be with the big club during the off season and get that experience with the off season training and programming and coaching the guys, you know, is definitely huge for me. But yeah, that transition, like I said, kind of the creativity of working in the G League really benefited me, especially for you know, lifting on the road. Even, you know, most of the gyms we have, hotel gyms, are nicer obviously than some of the G League hotels we stayed at. But you know, occasionally you come across ones where it's still pretty limited equipment. So you know, being able to kind of to go back to my G League ways and remember some creative exercises or ways we were able to kind of make it work. You know, has definitely helped me out. And you know, being a part of the big club during the summer was huge. You know, keep me, you know, let me be more familiar with the coaches, let the coaches be more familiar with me. You know, some of our core group of players, you know, have been there throughout the years. You know, they were comfortable with me, and you know, I think having those summers are huge in my growth, and then also during my transition to you know, understand kind of how the NBA works. And you know, the other big difference is you know, funding technology. You know, we don't have force plates or, you know, GPS tracking connects on you know, with the G League. So you know, having that at our disposal, and you know, being able to kind of dive a little deeper in the sports science side has been kind of huge. That's kind of been, you know, my big focus this year. Trying to understand that a little more and dive deeper into what we have here. And yeah, I mean, I'd say that's the big difference: funding, having the teams, you know, year round, obviously. And you know, I definitely wouldn't trade my route, you know, for anything. You know, being in that G League, that grind, you know, really kind of helps you feel that fire and you know, kind of get more creative. And yeah, it's been definitely very beneficial for me.
For sure. And being creative then makes everything easier when you have a lot of stuff at your disposal, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, that's kind of one thing too we've been focusing a little more this year is you know, obviously we're still big on our traditional lifts, but you know, trying to get a little more creative and you know, bridging that gap between getting stronger faster and being a better athlete on the court. So some of those kind of creativity, you know, pieces has really kind of helped us kind of bridge that gap this year.
For sure. You just mentioned that in the G League, you just have the team during the preseason for a couple of weeks, basically. How do you guys deal with that? Because usually here in Europe, we are used to having like a 6 to 8 week preseason. So we have a ton of time to build a chronic load before the season start. How do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty tough. I mean, depending on the team, you know, if you're lucky, you'll have, you know, a handful of guys that were on NBA rosters for NBA training camp. So, you know, they have that 4 or 5 weeks of a chronic load already built up. But, you know, sometimes half your team, you know, you got to just kind of hope that they, you know, did their part in the offseason. And a lot of times we won't, you know, we'll only know 4 or 5 guys. Usually those, you know, if they were on our NBA roster for training camp, we'll only know, you know, those players on our roster. There may be 6, 7 guys where it's just like empty spaces that we might not know who will actually be on our team until, you know, the week before. You know, our draft for the G League is literally I think it's like on Saturday, and then everyone reports Sunday evening, and then Monday is physicals and, you know, the start of practice. So it's pretty tough. You don't, like I said, sometimes you might not know half your roster, and you just got to really just hope that they, you know, hope that they did their part. And it's all over the board. You'll have guys that have trained all summer, both in the weight room and on the court. You have those guys, it's still fairly common in basketball, especially younger guys who maybe neglected the weight room and only really, played basketball, during the summer, which has its pros and cons as well. Typically they're kind of, more in shape, basketball shape, but you're kind of starting at square one when it comes to the strength side. So yeah, it's definitely tough, and that's where having a good coach that can understands the importance of kind of more of the load monitoring aspect, and high load, medium load, low load days, and kind of trying to periodize practice that way to kind of build that up. But at the end of the day, I think it's usually like a 10-day camp and then games start. So you can only be as conservative as you can. But at the end of the day, the goal is still to win games and develop these guys. So, we do our best. It's not perfect. There's definitely probably better ways to do it, but it's just kind of the way of the G League and how everything works. And, I don't really see that changing just with, NBA camps, and, maybe one day we'll be able to get these guys a little earlier if they're not in camp, but just kind of how everything is ran right now, and structured. I don't really see that changing. It's just something that you have to deal with and kind of do what's best for the guys and do what's best for the team.
Yeah, and as you just said, one of the secrets is having a very smart head coach that understands the importance of slowly building up a chronic load instead of pushing the guys right away.
Definitely, and my time at the G League, I had three different coaches, or I'm sorry, two different coaches, and they were both great. Kind of with that aspect, they're the experts on the court and with the basketball side, but obviously, not experts in the managing the health of athletes. And they really kind of let me run with that. And we had morning meetings, daily meetings with the head coach, me and the head coach, and then also as a staff, and them allowing me to be in there for their practice, planning practice, and giving me that voice to say, maybe we shouldn't do this. I think we need a little more live. Is huge, and me growing as a strength coach, and then also just kind of understanding how a coach thinks and understanding more the basketball side of things, and what drills they think are important and why they think. So that was kind of huge, being able to sit in those meetings and kind of building that rapport, building that trust, and kind of learning what they think is important, and kind of coming together as a group and planning out those practices.
Yeah, that's definitely very, very interesting. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what you guys actually do in the weight room with your guys. Because last week we had a conversation, and you mentioned that you guys lift very often on game days, right? Can you please break it down for us?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we kind of like to let the players kind of to guide when they like to lift, and we're big proponents on making your hard days hard and your easy days easy. And the NBA, you'll be playing 3 to 4 games a week, and so recovery on those off days is huge. And a lot of our guys have kind of found out that if they lift on game days, whether it's pre-game, post-game, whatever they feel comfortable with. If they lift pregame, they get the kind of activation component, and usually feel pretty good out in the court. But also they can use their off days as or practice days, light practice days, as more of a recovery day. Get in the weight room, do more mobility stuff. Maybe a recovery lift, mobility flow, something like that. So they don't have to utilize those days. Their days to kind of get their lifts in. And it's kind of worked out great for us. I mean, the guys really buy into it. If they come in, and it's not something like, obviously we don't like to come in and like kill them pregame. It's typically 3 to 4 exercises, kind of a primary lift, paired usually with some type of explosive plyometric or a med ball throw. Typically a push or a pull, upper body push or pull, depending on the guy. Some guys prefer push, some prefer pull, some don't like doing either. Some of our bigs like to do both. and then a core exercise. And if they're a lower minute guy, we might throw in a secondary lower body lift, or a couple, an extra set, for their lifts. But it's usually kind of short and sweet. We like to stick around like the 20-minute mark when it comes to their actual lift. And we're big proponents on doing kind of their prehab activation, whatever someone wants to call it, before every game in practice. So we kind of transition that, come in, they do their activation stuff, and then we kind of quickly kind of transition that to their lift once they're warm and ready to go. And their primary lift, it might usually is only 2 or 3 sets, usually like under kind of 10 reps. Now we're getting later in the season, so we're doing a lot of kind of rack pulls, pin squats, kind of partial range of motion exercises. Fairly moderate to high load, but reducing that range of motion, typically reducing the eccentric component to kind of get them primed and ready to go on the court. And we found some great buy-in with that. And most of the guys kind of really like that. And I think the big part of that is just kind of giving them the freedom to figure out what works for them. And obviously when you have some older guys and some guys that have been in the league for a few years, they kind of already figured that out. And it's nice when you kind of give them that freedom. They also accept your input, and if there's something that we think this might work better for you, or hey, let's try this instead, usually we kind of have that buy-in, because it's kind of a two-way thing. We give them a little leeway, they give us a little leeway, and kind of try to incorporate some of the things that we believe they need, or we believe they should focus on, or try something new. So it kind of works out really well. And then they enjoy having their if it's an off day or a get what you need day, they kind of enjoy using those days as more recovery based, and so that way they don't have to come in and then really get after it.
Yeah, I think that giving players options and some kind of freedom, it's one of the easiest way to obtain the buy-in of the athletes by far.
For sure. And I mean, just having those conversations, and what works well for you, what don't you like. If if a guy hates a bilateral squat pattern, it's not something we're going to force them to do. There's plenty of other unilateral variations and other ways that we can kind of elicit the same response that we want. Kind of giving them that choice, figuring out what they like, what they don't like. And like I said, it kind of helps the buy-in for when we want to kind of put a spin on something or try something new. I think even at every level to some extent, obviously at the higher levels, it's easier to do that because they have more of an experience and kind of know what works well for them. But I think even at lower levels, it's something good to kind of explore doing. And obviously at that level, you may need to do some more basics, kind of fundamental lifts, just because they might have a lower training age and don't have that coordination, the movement patterns, all that. That's huge, and getting that buy-in. And it's definitely something I've learned over the past few years, that the more freedom you give them or make them think that they have, the easier everything flows, and the more buy-in you get from them.
And how important it is for a strength coach to have veterans on the team that lead the way, also in the weight room?
It's huge. I mean, you look at our team right now, obviously, Vucevic being a bigs typically, kind of migrate more to the weight room. They either enjoy it just because of their personality, or they know like the importance of it. Some of them call it kind of their body armor that they need to put on to go out there and do their job. But also some like, DeMar DeRozan, we picked him up this year, wasn't a huge lifter. We kind of slow cooked him, and, he comes in every single game day before the game, does his prehab. We'll throw in one lower body, exercise, whether it's a, goblet, cyclist squat, a single leg squat down to a bench, hamstring curl, RDL, single leg RDL. He's really kind of bought into that. He's one of the best years of his career, and that kind of helps the buy-in with us. Not saying that us doing that is the reason why he's having this career like year, but when he's playing well, it keeps him engaged and keeps him coming in. And some of our younger guys, they see that it's like it's easy for them to buy in. They want to I want to idol, be like him and have a season like him at some point in their career. And it's hard for them to say no or not want to be in the weight room if we have a guy like him. And Zach Levine, he's pound for pound probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest guys we have. And he kind of his dad started him at a young age, and he's always been in the weight room. Kind of growing up and enjoys being in there with us. So when you kind of have your top three guys, either enjoy the weight room or understand the importance of it, it really trickles down and it's kind of contagious for the other guys. And then recently picked up Tristan Thompson, who's the big that enjoys the weight room. And first day he was there, comes in a couple hours before practice, meet him, boom, right to the weight room. Kind of get to know each other, and that was huge too. Seeing these guys, seeing him come in first day, being the first one in the weight room, getting his work done. He's been a great presence both in the weight room and the court, kind of trying to guide some of our younger guys and teach them some of the some of the things that you learn throughout a long career in the NBA. So yeah, I think that's huge. They make our job a lot easier. We don't have to kind of track down the guys and remind them to come lift. They see guys that they've watched in high school and college, playing the NBA now, on their team doing what we ask and getting their working in the weight room. It kind of makes our job fairly easy from that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Last year in Israel, I had one of our top players that used to lift every single day, and every time was pushing really, really hard. So one day I went to him and I told him, man, it's huge to have veterans like you that love lifting, that push hard. And his answer was this, man, I hate lifting, but I know that this is what I need to play at the highest level at my age. So that was a funny conversation, but he explained exactly what you just said.
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually had that conversation with guys. Obviously, pretty early on if a guy enjoys the weight room or doesn't, kind of shies away from it. And I've had that conversation with multiple guys. Like, look, you don't have to enjoy being in here, but you can just understand the importance of it, and we're here to help you. We're not here to hurt you or bring you down. And this is going to hopefully give you a long career in the NBA and or wherever you're playing. And we're here to make you better, make you feel better, make you perform better. And once they kind of see you as a tool in their toolbox and something that's going to help them out, and not someone's going to hold them back or be this kind of another voice in their ear. It's kind of huge once they kind of figure out their why. Their why may just be just because it's good for their career. Their why may be they really enjoy the weight room, but as long as they're coming in and giving us their all when they're in there, that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, and how important it is to have an open line of communication with your athlete, and of course, how important is it to effectively communicate with your athlete?
Yeah, I mean, communication is huge. It's key. I mean, kind of like I mentioned earlier, kind of finding out what they like and what they don't like, and giving them that empowerment to feel like they can kind of choose and kind of have a say in their physical development is huge, and it's big in that buy-in. And like I mentioned, we're not gonna, if someone hates doing a certain pattern, certain lift, like we're just not gonna just try to fit a square peg in a round hole. We're gonna find something that works for them and something that they enjoy, because that just keeps them engaged and keeps them locked in, keeps them wanting to come back. And there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. I mean, we're not just gonna, this is our only thing. Everyone, does a back squat, bilateral back squat. Like, no, that's not going to be the case for a lot of guys. And I think finding out what they like is huge. And then you have to find out kind of their training age, especially early on. When we first sign a guy in the off season, or pick up a guy mid season. Having the conversation. Kind of my big things I like to ask is kind of like what their training age is, what they're used to, what kind of stuff have they typically done, what they like, what they don't like, and what their injury history is. And I think if you kind of ask those three things, kind of everything else kind of happens organically, and the conversation will lead to different things. So I think kind of those three things are huge to kind of start the conversation and kind of start to formulate a plan, and it'll help you kind of with their prehab stuff. We like to do kind of more semi-individual prehab things, but at the end of the day, like basketball players are basketball players. They typically, lack ankle range of motion, a lot of patellar tendinopathy things, limited hip mobility. So we have a catalog of exercises that we like, and it's like, okay, your hip mobility, ankle mobility, kind of knee stability person. We have these exercises. Let's pick and choose ones that you like, that you feel work for you. They all have similar goals. They may work, one might work better for you and not as good for me, but kind of giving them that freedom to pick and choose and kind of figure out what works best for their body is huge. And then just building their trust. I mean, if they don't trust you, they're not gonna come to you, or they're not gonna have that buy-in. So I think having that trust, and also kind of being that outlet. I mean, these guys go through a lot, whether it's on the court and their personal lives. So sometimes just kind of being that person for them to get some things off their chest. I mean, you know how it is post game. If you're working with a guy post game, a lot of times they may kind of vent some of their frustrations, and just if you don't have that good rapport with them, and if they don't trust you, they're not gonna trust you to kind of blow some steam off. And I think that aspect is huge as well, kind of being that as that person that they can kind of confide in, and get some things off their chest. And I mean, if you have that good relationship with guys, you build almost like a friendship, and the kind of you learn about their personal life, things they might be struggling with, and that kind of helps you build more of a relationship too, because you guys might have similar experiences in life, or you guys might have completely different experiences, but you can kind of see how some of those might be a little similar, even though it's a different experience. You guys have kind of grown in a similar way. So yeah, communication and building that trust with the guys is huge, both personally, and then professionally, and keeping them engaged in what we have to offer.
Yeah, and also building that trust, building the relationship, and having that kind of communication is also key when it comes to managing the load of these athletes, for example. Because maybe if you don't have that kind of a relationship, you don't know about something that happened in the athlete's life that happened maybe the day before on that, or also on the same day, that maybe prevents him from pushing 100% on that specific day.
Definitely. I mean, and stress is stress. Like the body, perceives stress is one way. It doesn't really break down like, oh, this is like a physical stress from game. This is an emotional stress, or from my life outside of basketball. The body could just kind of perceive stress as stress, and like you said, kind of having that relationship, you can kind of help use that, guide your way with how you're gonna push them for that week, for that day. And yeah, it's definitely huge.
Okay, great. There is one last topic that I would like to touch on with you. It's the get what you need days. It's something that you mentioned before. How do you organize the get what you need days, and how many times a week do you usually have it?
Yeah, so lately, kind of mid-season, now since we're getting towards the end of the season, a lot of our days, more quote unquote practice days, or days where you have an opportunity to practice, have kind of turned to what we call these get what you need days. So typically, our lower minute guys will come in and have either an individual workout, or a lot of times they'll kind of play some 3-on-3 or even 5-on-5 with our player development staff, just to kind of keep their sharpening their skills, but also making sure when their name's called, they still have that basketball conditioning, and we can supplement the conditioning after games and on off days as much as we can. But at the end of the day, playing basketball is the only thing to really get you in basketball shape. So I think that's been kind of huge for some of our younger guys and some of our low minute guys, to keep them ready, and keep their skill sharpened. But it also gives the kind of mid to higher minute guys that freedom to Okay, today, I'm just going to come in and get treatment, or I'm going to come in, get some shots up. Sometimes, if they have a bad game, they may want to do a little, maybe not a full individual workout, but kind of get on the court, break a sweat, try to, iron out some things that they were struggling with the day before. And then we get a chance to see them, whether they're coming in doing, recovery lifts, they're coming in just to do a little mobility session. And sometimes we do have a few guys that prefer to lift on their kind of off days. So, it gives us some flexibility to kind of individualize what the guys need and what they want to do. And kind of how we choose that is, our player development staff and our main player development coach, he'll come around, ask our director of sports performance kind of what his thoughts are. He'll come check in with us and kind of see where guys are at for the week, and kind of let us know what they're thinking, and kind of pick our brains, and we'll give our 2 cents in, and kind of come to a decision that both the coaching side and sports performance side kind of agrees on. And like I said, kind of the lower minute guys, they kind of know what they're expected to do, or kind of know what they need to do. So at the end of the day, they're all professionals. They want to get better. They want to perform well on the court. So for those guys, it's not like you have to force them to come in. They want to come in. They want to get better. They want to improve their game. So it's good for them. That's also good, like I said, for the higher minute guys to kind of depending, they may feel great that day and want to come in and get a little extra work in, or they may have something in their personal life that they need to take care of. They have families, and they may have their kid has some type of an appointment that day, or has something that they can go spend that time with them. Kind of gives them that freedom to get what they need, hence the name of the day, and also kind of have that freedom with their personal life, if they have other things they need to take care of. So I think it's been huge this year. Obviously we still do have some off days, true off days, where it's like, okay, we just came back from a long road trip, we just played a back-to-back. Tomorrow, unless you have an active injury, or unless you really want to come in, we're gonna have a true off day, kind of black the building out, kind of stay at home, stay out of the building, kind of get your mind right kind of day. But typically, we have these get what you need days that kind of, earlier on in the season, they might have been a full, practice day, but it's a long season, it's a long grind. So at this point in the season, the recovery aspect is huge. And I think this is a great way to kind of handle that for kind of the high minute guys, low minute guys, and kind of doing what we can do to get these guys' bodies right.
Great. Very, very interesting. Matt, usually we finish off the episode with 3 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
So, first one, your favorite strength and conditioning book?
Ooh, my favorite strength and conditioning book. I would probably say The System. It's a newer one that I read probably last offseason, 2 off seasons ago. That really kind of helped me kind of grow more as a strength coach and kind of understand some more programming sides. And it's definitely a great resource.
Your go-to exercise in the weight room for yourself and for your athlete?
Any type of squat pattern. I'm a big back squat guy for myself. But I think, the bang for your buck on a squat pattern, whether it's unilateral, bilateral, is huge.
Your goal as a strength coach?
My goal as a strength coach, I guess it's just to, give my all to these guys that I'm working with and help them kind of, achieve their goals and get to the level where they want to be at. That's the most rewarding thing of this profession, is helping guys, get to where they want to be, help them perform at a high level. And, if you're doing that, everything else is going to take care of itself. If you're getting the guys better and you have that rapport with them, your career will be taken care of.
Okay, great. It was a great episode, Matt. If some of our listeners would like to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at mcstrength_. Reach out to me there, send me a DM. or email mcomer@bulls.com. I'd be happy to connect. And yeah, any questions, just hit me up.
All right. Thank you very much for taking the time today and spending some time with us. It was a very, very interesting episode.
Yep. Thanks, Coach.
A wrap on episode 38 of Sport Vitamins. Another great episode with another very, very interesting guest. So if you like the episode, please share it on your social media, and don't forget that you can find Sport Vitamins on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, guys, I'm out.